Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mr. Benjamin, and I'm the presidential candidate of the fictional Common Sense People's Party. And yes, while commissioning the new immigration headquarters in Abuja, President Buhari hinted at why Nigerians suffered so much in his regime. Yes, but before I break that down, let me quickly bring you good news of this wonderful woman, Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. And yes, the Amazon Ngozi Chimamanda Adichie is at it again. Each time this lady makes headlines, it is always for the right reason, always making Nigeria proud. This time around, she featured in the new book of the Pope. She actually wrote the preface of the Pope's new book titled Hands of Africa. And the report says Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie writes preface of Pope Francis's new book, Hands of Africa. Highly decorated and award-winning Nigerian author Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie has described Pope Francis's latest book, Hands of Africa, as a beacon of hope for Congo and Africa at large. Writing in the preface of the book, which was released in stores on May 22, 2023, the author said, "The book brings me a small sliver of hope for Congo and for the beloved and broken-hearted continent that I call home." As Ngozi Chimamanda Adichie, a lady that was born in 1977 in Enugu, grew up in Nsukka, only left Nigeria at the age of 19, and she has become a global figure for over a decade now. This is to tell you the strength of the average Nigerian youth. This is to tell you how committed and how talented Nigerians are. And this is to tell you that there is no limit to the heights that Nigerian young people can get to, if only they have the right support. Now, back to the issue of President Muhammad Buhari hinting at the suffering that took place in his regime. I want to make una first watch this video first. Make we come back and talk about that.
And I deliberately closed the borders because knowing Nigerians, they order rice and give some Niger address, and then they bring the rice here. And with our land and our potentialities, God, we thank God, Nigeria is favored. We have people, we have land, we have weather. How many nations are so lucky as Nigeria in the world? Very few nations are as lucky as we are. We thank God for that. So closing that border, 1,600 kilometers, more than that, from Lake Chad to Benin. And Nigeria insists that they have to impress their neighbors and other people, that they eat foreign rice. I said, no rice. You either you eat what you grow what you eat, or you die. I think I tried to make my point. And later, Nigeria appreciated it because it provides more jobs. People go back to the land. We have the land, and we produce what we eat. Let whoever grow excess rice, eat his own rice or sell it somewhere else, but not to Nigeria.
Now, the first problem with that speech is the use of what? That phrase, consume what you produce or die. Many Nigerians were dissatisfied with it. They didn't like, they were angry with the fact that the president used the word death, on the citizens. Even though what many Nigerians passed through economically in the last 8 years was a near-death experience, even as many died, people were dissatisfied with the fact that the president used the word death. And I concur, it was too harsh a phrase to use. Then secondly, we can deduce from this speech that the president, in a bid to move Nigeria from a consuming nation to a producing nation, deliberately closed the border so that people will suffer, because he believed that the suffering will now force Nigerians into producing. But is that the process you follow if you want to carry your country from consumption to production? No. There are things that must be put in place. Adequate security, stable power supply, credit facilities and things like that. But going straight to closing the border is like putting the cart before the horse. And that was why that move was a spectacular failure. Because if you look at all kinds of production, we have the primary, secondary, and tertiary production. Primary production predominantly has to do with agriculture. We saw how farmers were slain on their farms. We saw how they were attacked by herdsmen and their crops destroyed because of insecurity, meaning security was not in place for primary production. And when you look at the secondary and tertiary production, these two forms of production cannot thrive where there is no stable power supply. Do we have stable electricity in Nigeria? No! How about credit facility? How easy it is to access loans in Nigeria? So these are the things that you have to put in place first to ensure that the environment is working before you talk of border closure. But we just went ahead to bam, border closure, and that was why the move did not succeed. And one of the proofs that the move failed is that look at the rice, the most widely consumed food, which is even the food that Mr. President used as example in his speech. We were buying imported rice at 9,000 naira, but when the border was closed and we started producing, we had to start buying our own local rice at 20-something to 30-something thousand naira. And one of the goals of local production is to force down price. But because we didn't do it the right way, because we put the cart before the horse, we couldn't force down prices with our local production. Instead, price skyrocketed. And another goal of local production is to help the currency to grow. But because we put the cart before the horse, naira was on a free fall. Even as the border was closed, the dollar kept rising against the naira. Why? Because we could not produce. We're struggling to produce. Why? Because we didn't put the right things in place. And we'll be wondering, how do these other countries do it? How do they look at something they import and begin to produce that same thing? It's called import substitution. Basic economics tells us that. And what is import substitution? You look at what you are importing, then you try to copy it, you try to make sure that your local producers start producing that thing. And when they start producing it, of course, they will sell cheaper because them, now your country that they do and they are not importing. And when the people see that their own is cheaper, the people will naturally leave the one that is imported that is expensive and buy the local one, since it is still the same thing. But we could not think of import substitution, because for import substitution to thrive, you need electricity. You need security. You need good credit facility. And we're not ready for all those ones. So we just jump straight to closure of border, thinking that we can force people into producing. And what happened was that Nigerians suffered. Nigerians have been suffering. We are still suffering. Inflation, widespread inflation everywhere on all the goods and services. And he said in his speech that Nigerians have come to appreciate the border closure policy. And people came under the comment section and said, sir, maybe in the north or your own state, people appreciated it. But nowhere in the south, southwest, southeast, or south-south did people appreciate the fact that foreign rice, clean, well finished, that they were buying at 9,000 naira was stopped. And now they have to buy poorly finished rice for 25,000, 30,000. They say nobody appreciated it in the south. That was what people were saying in the comment section. Then finally he capped it up by saying he is going to stay far away from Abuja as possible. That if Nigerians make too much noise and complain too much, that Niger Republic will defend him. Now that one, now everywhere comes scatter, people come dey vex. People can't even go under the comment section, they pray, say, Baba God, which day you go give us the kind country where we desire? Oh, it's not easy being a Nigerian. But with a hope, say one day, all these problems, we go solve them. With a hope, say one day, we will become the kind of nation that we want. And we will not give up. We will keep hoping. But until then, make I still enter town. Make I go get some ogbonge political news where una go like. Why? Because of una. Nah, I dey here. So, don't go away.